Microsoft is in a really tough situation right now because they are kind of on the record as kind of lying to fans and things like that. And so, realistically, I've seen this a lot on social media, probably the same handful of people that do this, but it's crazy to me that it's still happening because you'll have these Xbox fans kind of regurgitate Microsoft's own things, right? Like when it comes to exclusive games or whatever. And to me, that's kind of funny because they'll go, oh, well, exclusives don't matter because they're going everywhere. And I'm like, sign me up when I can play God of War on my Xbox, or when I can play The Last of Us on Xbox, or the Uncharted games on Xbox, or Spider-Man on Xbox. And before you jump in and go, oh, well, Xbox Magnus. I mean, yeah, I could spend $1,400 on a PC right now and play those games, but I have a PS5 Pro, so there's not really a need to. And, whatever Microsoft is offering next gen is going to be quite expensive. But Microsoft and their pundits keep on saying things like, well, console gaming's dead, Microsoft is doing the right thing. But let me ask you this, if you're a hardcore Xbox fan, when has Xbox actually done the right thing, right? I mean, you really have to go back and look, because Play Anywhere wasn't the right thing. It really killed the Xbox console. That was the kind of start of it, and it's just been a steady decline since then. But we also have this situation where they're trying to preach that consoles are dying, but we see the Switch 2 breaking all kinds of records, right? Probably by the end of this year, the Switch 2 will have surpassed Xbox Series X and S sales completely combined in, a year and a half. We also see that the PS5 shipments have reached 92.2 million units, and Ghost of Yotei outsold Ghost of Tsushima when you align the launches. So Sony has posted its own quarterly financial report revealing that PS5 shipments have now reached 92.2 million units, up from 84.2 million units declared in the previous quarter. This means that Sony sold 8 million PlayStation 5 consoles alone in fiscal quarter 3, a little bit of a decrease from the previous quarter 3 the year prior. But you have to remember, that year was like a record-breaking year for PlayStation. So it was offset by marginally better PS5 shipments in quarter 1 and quarter 2 compared to the previous year. Overall, Sony has shipped 15.7 million units as of quarter 3, whereas this year the fiscal amount was 14.4. So not too bad. Despite the downward trajectory, cumulative PS5 shipments are not all that far from where the PS4 was at the same point. The PS4 had sold 94.2 million units, but it also faced far less adversity than the PS5 did. The most recent Sony console had to deal with the semiconductor shortage at first, and now the memory shortages aren't helping either. It's far from all bad news for PlayStation. Full game software sales between PS4 and PS5 increased to almost 100 million units, up 1.4% compared to last year, mostly thanks to first-party sales, which reached almost 14 million units in the quarter, which is up almost 14% compared to last year's. Of course, the game leading the charge was Ghost of Yotei by Sucker Punch, by far the biggest PS5 exclusive game released in fiscal year 2025. Indeed, during the fiscal year 2025 quarter 3 earnings, Sony Chief Financial Officer Lin Tao shared that the game has exceeded the sales of the predecessor Ghost of Tsushima when launch aligned. Sony did not provide any actual updated sales figures, however. We know that Ghost of Tsushima sold 2.4 units in the first 3 days, but reached 5 million units 118 days, nearly 4 months after launch. By contrast, Ghost of Yotei sold 3.3 million units in 32 days. It means Tsushima must have taken slightly longer to reach that milestone. Even if it's only a marginal improvement, it's actually more meaningful when you consider that Tsushima was released at the height of the COVID pandemic and benefited from a much larger install base than Ghost of Yotei. Given the positive sales figures, it's hard to imagine that Sony won't greenlight Ghost of Yotei DLC and possibly another game in the franchise. But the thing that I would like to kind of point out is, right now, yeah, it's like roughly 2 million units behind where the PS4 was. But we also have to kind of take into context that, when GTA 6 launches, this is something that we're going to see happen where people flock to the PS5 because it just makes sense to, right? This thing is only launching on a PS5, and it's going to probably play best on a PS5 Pro, maybe even 60 frames. So you're going to have that. And then, it's also cheaper to buy a PS5 digital than it is an Xbox Series S right now. So, again, we have to kind of look at where we're sitting with this. Microsoft is kind of screwed themselves by raising the prices and things like that. And Sony seemed much better prepared than Microsoft, and that's a little bit weird to me, since Microsoft is a tech company and they weren't nearly as prepared. Like Sony is prepared to go this entire, they have enough RAM and memory to last this entire year, which is insane when you think about it, and they're not going to have to raise the prices. That's not saying that they'll never raise the price again, but it is one of those things where you have to kind of look at things at how they go, and how they're kind of they're happening. So I would like to say, I think that Microsoft should maybe pay a little bit more attention to how Sony does things, and maybe we'll see something happen in the future where we have more of a true competition. But for right now, we don't really have that. It's really unfortunate, that Microsoft keeps preaching, console gaming is dead and exclusives are dead. But you look at PlayStation and Nintendo, and they're not. I mean, yeah, PlayStation is putting some stuff on PC, but a PC isn't a console. And when it comes to the single player stuff, it's coming, much later. So, again, once and I'm not even opposed to that. I know people thought that I was super opposed to the Xbox games, which were originally only supposed to go to Windows, by the way, with another lie by Phil Spencer. But, realistically, putting games there a couple years later is smart, because you can get people maybe that double dip, that have that play on both. I mean, it's not a lot of people that play on both, but there's going to be some there, and you get you expel what you can, you get, and then once it's already hit the saturation point on on your console, then you can put it there. It's like Microsoft isn't even doing that though. Microsoft is just like everything everywhere, because they have these insane margins, and it's just not honestly something that that really works. And that's really kind of unfortunate in my opinion. I honestly hope that Microsoft rebounds and does something smart, for a change. I'm not sure that'll happen, but it is, again, when you keep hearing, the industry's in trouble, and then when you look around and you see that PlayStation is selling crazy. I mean, the fact that they sell 8 million in a quarter is insane to me. Even if they're still selling 14 million, even if they only did 13 million the next 2 years, that's 26 million on top of 92 million. So you do the math. That's them closing in on 120 million. I think they're gonna do well above that, and the reason why is because of GTA 6. We know they're treating it like an exclusive. It's going to be synonymous with PlayStation. People that haven't upgraded are probably going to upgrade to a PlayStation, and they're going to see insane sales. Like, even if you were somebody who wanted an Xbox, right? How would you get one? Like, if you're in a different country other than the U.S., and even in the U.S. or the U.K., it's tough to get them, because they don't put out much stock. So, it's kind of crazy the way this happens, so I just kind of wanted to do this video to say, hey, if you're one of those people beating that drum that consoles are dead or dying or whatever the case may be, it's not happening. It's not happening. And, again, we can look at things and we can kind of be realist about it, or we can continue to kind of pull the sheet over our head and pretend like that something different is happening. I honestly, people are excited about the same handful of people that are on Twitter going, Game Pass is the best deal. It seems like and they never show what they game, by the way, what they play, or their gamer score, or their gamer tags, or anything like that. And I talk a lot of trash, but I have no problem. Hey, a lot of people, I post my achievements. I'm over 400,000. It's pretty insane, to be honest with you, the way that I handle gaming. Nobody can say, oh, he doesn't game, because I 100% game. I game a lot, and I've been gaming a lot more lately on PlayStation, simply for the fact that I've built up quite a library there now, and trying to get used to it or whatever, because I'm not sure what Microsoft is going to do in the future, but it doesn't sound like it's going to be something that I want to be a part of. So again, I want to be able to have a nice library over there on the other side. On, you know, I have my Pro, I have, you know, probably get a PS6. We'll see how it happens. But what do you guys think about this, man? Like, Microsoft always bringing up consoles are dead or blah blah blah, and we see PlayStation doing well, Switch doing well. I don't know, it just seems like the only one not doing well is Xbox. So rack 'em up. Crap Gamer out.